Hello. Um, so, my name is Brendan Weaver. I am an 18-year-old and I've only been following God for about 3 years now. And in that time, I have never shared my testimony, ever. Not my full testimony. I've shared little bits and pieces to only two people, actually. And so, in this video, I will be sharing the full thing, and that is in celebration of my 2 years of being baptized, which has been the best decision I've ever made. So, in this video, I will be sharing from the beginning to now. And there's a lot I want to go over, but it'll be from my perspective of things, obviously. I'm going to be completely open and completely vulnerable about everything I'm saying. So, to start it off, I honestly don't remember too much from my childhood, which might not be the best thing. But what I remember from my parents is my dad was mainly around for sports. Um, he was always taking me to baseball, soccer when I played soccer, and he would take me in when my mom couldn't. Um, Growing up, my mom, well, she still does, but she has bipolar disorder, um, and she would have these times where she would be in and out of the hospital for that, and you know me being a child, I did not know what was happening. I couldn't comprehend it. And sometimes I wouldn't even know where she was. I would just be getting told I'm either going to my dad's house or my grandmother's house. And that's kind of what my life was like at that time. I've lived in four different houses my whole life. First one, we got kicked out. The second one, we lived in a trailer in my grandmother's driveway. The third one, we also got kicked out because the homeowner needed it back. And this fourth one is where I live today. My church life, I've, I've, I can't remember a whole lot, like I said, but I remember specifically going on holidays. Other than that, I don't think it was too consistent. I know we went to church, but I don't believe it was too consistent. Um, so, me personally, God wasn't a priority in my life. God wasn't a main thought. God wasn't, you know, too important to me growing up, right? But just to skip to fifth grade. In fifth grade, I was around these people that introduced me to pornography and weed. And those same people, you know, would offer me to smoke with them, showed me those videos, and I followed their lead because it was the only guidance I had. I've had no brothers. Like I said, my dad, the only time I would really have time with him was baseball or sports in general. Um, so I didn't get too much guidance growing up. So after being introduced to porn, I, did it quite often. I would watch it quite often, and definitely when I got bored, and I would smoke weed whenever I got the chance, which, you know, I would get offered all the time while with them, and I would do it because I wanted to fit in. The reason I wanted to fit in so bad was because growing up, I've always been called annoying or weird. Just, I don't even know why. I would just be myself, and that's the way it would go. I didn't really feel accepted growing up. Um, I don't believe many people liked me. I tried to be super friendly with everybody. I would do things to fit in all the time. But skipping to sixth grade, before COVID, I, would still smoke weed, and I wouldn't do it often, but I would whenever I got offered, whenever I got the chance to smoke weed, right? Um, and my confidence of self worth were kind of iffy because, like I said, I would be made fun of and all these other things. So my confidence wasn't the best. My self worth wasn't the best at the time, and I was using the videos and weed as a distraction for me. In sixth grade, I had a friend group, um, which also didn't help my mind at all because I would be the targeted one out of the group, so I would get picked on and messed with all the time, and me personally, um, I was kind of a soft kid. I didn't know too much, and I would just go with whatever. And when people talked down on me, I would get upset because I was being talked down on, and I wouldn't do anything wrong to me in my eyes. I was just trying to be liked, and I felt like nothing was working. So the end of sixth grade is when COVID came along, and we got out of school 2 weeks early. I was happy, uh, obviously, because who likes school? But from there is kind of where my depression began. I would play video games a lot, very often. It was another form of escape other than the videos and smoking. So I would use that also as an escape, um, which wasn't the best thing for my health. Um, During that time, I was still playing baseball, and I, would still be doing all these things, hanging out with my friends, right? But there'd be times where I would literally just play games all day, and I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't, socialize with people really, other than people on the game, and it just became very bad for me. Mind you, I was still surrounded with the same friend group, so I was still the targeted one, and it kind of really affected me. Um, how people thought of me. So that being in addition, I liked hanging out with people, but it became less because I was trying so hard to be liked by people. Um, and it really affected me, and still low-key affects me to this day, as I am still struggling with how people think of me, and my actions all the time. I always think about how people see me and if people actually like me. Even like towards my closest friends, I second guess if I'm really actually liked, or if I'm still that annoying person. So during COVID, like I said, I would play video games all the time, and in this, I started to become depressed. Um, I wanted to be alone a lot. I had a bunch of thoughts in my head at the time, and because we didn't have school, I was just home all day, and seventh grade wasn't much to me. Like, I don't remember seventh grade at all because I didn't do anything. I would hang out with friends. I would, you know, still smoke weed. I would play video games. That's all I really did. That's all I could really remember from seventh grade. Those are the things I can remember the most. I passed with all zeros in seventh grade, but during that I would still play baseball, and I would you know stay up all night playing video games. So I would wake up when it's time for practice, not eating, not drinking anything. So I would go to practice tired, no energy, and I would fall behind. And that really affected my mental health as well, as I felt like I was worse than everybody else. I would, feel so disappointed in myself, um, because it was the only time I really had with my dad, as that was the main time I could see him was through sports. And it really affected me because I thought he was disappointed more than anything. And nobody wants to disappoint their dad. So I was beating myself up for that, which really messed with my mental health like 10 times more, um, and really affected me. But I love the escape of video games, of the videos of weed so much that I kept doing it, no matter how much baseball had an effect on me, and what I thought my dad thought, um, of me, and you know the things I was doing. Right, um, I would still do those same things because it was an escape. It was a way to ignore those thoughts, a way to escape those thoughts, as they were constantly there, uh, and it sucked. It really did. I hated it, and me playing video games all the time, it just, I don't know, it just really messed with me a lot. And in this time, still being seventh grade, um, I was still with that same friend group, and they were. I remember this specific moment. We were riding bikes, right? And they were talking about Satan and making fun of God. Um, and this time, they were, essentially cursing God. Um, and you know, like I said, I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be liked, so I did the same. I had one friend in specific that would say, Satan was good, and I would say the same, as I wanted to fit in. Um, and you know, it just really, again, affected me in my belief in a higher power. Um, but I did have one friend in that group, and he was a believer of God, and um, still is. Uh, I'm pretty sure. Um, but he stood firm even when we would make fun of him. Um, and I'm so sorry for that. I just wanted to fit in. But he would stand firm. And honestly, I was a little bit curious about it because why are you going to keep, doing that while you're getting made fun of? And I didn't realize it till it was my time to do that, but we'll get to that. Anyway, um, I didn't really understand what depression was in this time, as seventh grade me. Um, but I constantly had suicidal thoughts. I had thoughts of taking my life many times, and I wouldn't think much of it because I thought it didn't matter. I thought it was a normal thing. I would make jokes of, you know, not being here anymore, and um, I was afraid to speak about my feelings because of that same friend group. I, said something happened in my life and they made fun of me for it. Um, and from there, I kind of numbed myself when things would happen, when I would, feel things just so I didn't get made fun of, just so I wouldn't have to speak about it. And it sucked because I wouldn't open up to anybody, um, which made my depression at the time worse, as I spoke to nobody about it. So by the time we got into eighth grade, we were back to school, and I did not want to go back to school. I wanted to stay home all the time, and that's what I did. I would show up to school a couple times a month. I had a ton of absences. I don't know how I passed eighth grade because I had I think, I don't know, like 60 something absences. Like I said, I would show up a couple times a month. But when I would show up, I would think I was being judged all the time, and that I was weird, that I stunk, all these thoughts, right? And it just it really affected me and where I wanted to be. I did not want to be at school at all. I did not like people anymore. I didn't want to really be there anymore, as my depression was super bad, and I would still continue to have these suicidal thoughts. But in this grade, I met this girl. I liked her a lot, and you know, me being depressed, me watching the videos and in need of escape, I, you know, brought that into the relationship that we got in, and so I brought in lust, depression, and my need of escape, my self worth, and it created so many issues. Like we would go days where we would literally just argue, like eighth grade relationship, arguing for days straight. Like why? Anyway, but I was super dependent on her. I now made her my escape. Um, as she was the only one there for me. She was the only one there that I felt liked me, so I brought everything to her. I leaned on her more than anything, and it was not good because the wanting to watch the videos. Instead of that, when we would hang out, I would do inappropriate stuff with her. Um, and it just it just created a bad atmosphere in general. Um, the arguing, the lust, the you know, just everything. Um, just wasn't the best. There'd be good times, of course, but there would also be times where it just wasn't good for neither of us. So, like I said, I made her my escape, and with that, I pushed everything on her, and she pushed away, and as I was dependent on her, as I was pushing everything on her, she pushed away and found other people. She found people that would love her. And me being insecure and having no self worth or confidence, I would get very upset. I, you know, another reason for the arguments, another reason to start more issues, right? And, it became very difficult to be in. And, there'd be days where I would just be upset um, constantly. And it just was not good for me or her at all. And I just want to say I'm sorry because I was not the greatest person. And that relationship lasted a year and 2 months. Eventually, she found somebody that, you know, I, like a year and a month in, she found somebody that, could love her more. And she did cheat on me. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's okay. Cheating is not good in general. But I understand why she did. I understand, you know, the part I played in that situation. And, looking back at it, I am not very angry. I was very angry at her for a long time, for a very long time. But I'm no longer. And I just want to say I'm sorry for that. And the cheating did bring on trust issues. It, it, I don't know. It's a mix of, that friend group and then me being dependent on the one person and then them turning their back on me. It just made me not want to, be around people, trust people anymore. It kind of messed with my mind 10 times more. Like, I was completely done with people. But, like I said, about a year and a month in, I figured out that she was cheating. And it was on New Year's Eve, actually. I found out she was cheating. And in this, it felt like my world fell apart. In this, you know, the one person I depended on was now gone. And I felt like I should be gone as well. Um, so I wanted to take my own life. And I was home alone. Um, it was New Year's Eve. My mom was out with her friends, and I'm not sure where my sisters were, but I was home alone. And, you know, it gets very difficult for me to talk about this. But my depression was so bad. This is ninth grade now, by the way. But my depression was so bad, I wanted to take my life. I didn't want to leave any suicide note or nothing. I just wanted my mom to find me there. I was angry at her. I was angry at the person. I was upset in general at everything. And I did not want to be on this earth anymore. And so I had this knife. Super cool knife, by the way. Super cool knife. It's a throwing knife. I love knives. If you don't know me, I have a little collection. I got a new knife this Christmas, actually, and I'm happy about it. But pretty much, I grabbed this knife, and I'm just sitting in my room alone. I have this knife. My thoughts are going crazy. Um, um, and then I start this pros and cons list of what would happen if I were to take my life. What would happen if I were just to be gone? Would it be better for people if I just did not exist? And eventually, I believed that. I believed it so much I was about to take my life. And I brought a knife to my wrist, and there's kind of where God encountered me, because I just remember not being able to move. And then my thoughts kind of cleared for a minute. Um, I still couldn't move. My thoughts cleared, and I remember so clearly my like a vision of my sister's lives, of my mom, of my dad, of the person I was that cheated on me, and just my friends. I just remember so clearly the vision that was put in my head of what everybody's life would be like. All because I was hurting. It was gonna hurt so many people because I didn't feel love. Because I didn't think I was meant to be on this planet. So after that, I put the knife away and I went to bed. About a month later, I broke up with that person. And after that, I remember hurting so bad. I was hurting so bad. The suicidal thoughts came back again. But instead of this time grabbing a knife, I felt called to pray. And so I did. I got down on the edge of my bed and I prayed. And I don't remember the exact prayer, but I remember asking God what was wrong with me. I remember crying and just asking God what was wrong with me. I don't remember what else I said, but I remember that specific thing. And that's kind of where it all began. Where, everything with God began. Not long after I got my first Bible, um, and it was a King James version. And it's kind of crazy for a first Bible, but I wanted a little bit of a challenge. I thought it was a good idea, and I thought I would enjoy it, which low-key I kind of did, because it would make me have to do research. It would make me have to look into things more, and it was kind of nice. But I didn't understand it well enough as I do now. Um, but I continued to read it, and about a year later, I then got baptized. I got baptized New Year's, um, from a year later from when I wanted to take my life. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made, like I said. But that was my sophomore year. And I started to take God very seriously. But in this, people started to spread rumors about me. And I got made fun of for my faith. Like, I, made fun of that friend back then. Um, it became very hard to be open about my faith, as I was being made fun of for it. And it became difficult because I was a new follower. Like, I just committed my life to God. It really messed me up on my walk with God, but I kind of still stuck with Him. I wasn't like, as strong as I am now, but I stuck with it. I stuck with the walk. And even though I was getting made fun of, even though people were saying things, even though, I might look goofy, but I do not care, genuinely, because He saved me and I wanted to, give my life back to Him. Because when I didn't want it, He wanted it. So, yeah. But I was able to break my want to smoke September 2024, 9 months after I got baptized. I know at Y Comico in Worship I said 6 months. I counted wrong. I recounted for this. It was 9 months. Anyway, not long after this, I did meet somebody I liked a lot. Um, she had a relationship with God, and I really liked her, and it was a great relationship. It kind of completely reshaped my thinking on how relationships can be, my whole thought process behind love. Uh, which is crazy. But she loved me in a way that I didn't ever think I could be loved. And sadly, I was still not in the place I needed to be. Um, I led her down the wrong path, and we ended up having sex. And, and I just was not where I needed to be for that relationship. But I am very grateful for how, God played everything out and moved through that relationship. And that relationship lasted a year and 4 months, which brought me a ton of hurt. Um, but it made me lean on God more than ever. But I did lose my grandmother a couple months before then, so you know, it kind of all piled on the hurt, um, as I was trying not to hurt too much about my grandmother's passing. It still hurts today. Yeah, it kind of all piled on, and I was hurting a ton. So I truly leaned on God, and I truly, truly committed to God this time. But in June, this is before the breakup, I went to this camp called Ignite Camp, which is the very first time I ever told, um, where I encountered God for the first time, to one of the speakers there, Aaron. He's I'm excited for him to come to more conference. If you haven't signed up for more conference, sign up for more conference. Anyway, I'm excited for that. But I told him my testimony. Well, the main part of my testimony for the very first time. The first time I had told anybody. So it's crazy. But in this camp, they had a moment where they asked the whole room if anybody was called to ministry. And I remember this feeling inside of me. I can't totally put it into words, but the most I could say is like I felt my spirit kind of light up. Right? I felt it kind of like, yeah. But that's kind of where I feel like I'm led, is to ministry. I feel like I'm called to ministry. And what's crazy is, after this breakup, when I truly committed my life to God, when I've dropped everything, um, I also lost my job then, which is also insane. But I truly committed to everything, and you know, then I got offered to help with Parkside's Bible study, and my friend started locker room Bible study at Bennett. So it was like, man, I wanted to do something like this, and then I got invited to do it. That is crazy. But I was invited to help with Parkside Bible study, and then I had I had a opportunity to speak in front of a whole bunch of people, which was my family and family friends at my grandmother's funeral. This is the very first time I spoke to in front of a whole group ever about God. And it was in this time of true commitment, I have grown closer to God in so many ways, and closer to people that have been leading me to the right places. But also, we started Wicomico in Worship, which is literally schools in Wicomico County coming together, and I was able to speak at the very first meeting. So and at church, I was able to do pre-service prayer, and then I was able to do announcements on stage in front of everybody. So it's like I'm getting all these opportunities to speak in front of people. Once I commit my life, like truly drop everything, commit my life to God, I'm getting these opportunities to speak in front of people after I felt called to speak in front of people. It's just crazy to me. Anyway, but yeah, I was able to speak at the very first meeting, and I'm very grateful for that. Um, but it has felt like the longest 4 months of commitment. It feels like way more than 4 months, just because of how so much has changed in that period of time. But my biggest fight has finally ended, and that is with depression. Um, you know, I have not had a depressive thought, a suicidal thought, more than an hour at all. Like, I honestly, I have not had a depressive thought, and I can't remember last time. 2 months ago, I texted my pastor. I was like, "Hey, I had a depressive thought, blah blah blah," but I fought it off. And yeah, but God has now equipped me to fight the fight. God has equipped me so much that I can finally fight that off. That I can finally fight this thoughts off, and it no longer has a hold on me. But I can now beat my depression, but I still struggle with lust. It's slowly improving. I do struggle with it though. Um, my confidence does have its up and downs, but you know, God picks me up every single time. And but in these 4 months, I've learned so much. In these 3 years, I have changed so much. I'm just so very grateful because God has moved in my life in ways I couldn't even imagine. All because of one night where I did not want my life, where I did not want to be here anymore. He encountered me because He loves you, but He doesn't just love me; He loves you too. Anyway, um, He chose me when I didn't want help, but He wanted to help me. So it's just crazy. Um, but there's my full testimony. That's why I choose to follow God. That's why I love to speak about God. That's why I want to try and save as many as possible because I once was saved from a very low spot. People might be in the same place I was. People might be where I am right now. And either way, I want to help as many people as possible. And if I am able to help in any way, I want to. Um, and if you relate to this message or this story, testimony in any way, I am open to talk. I am open to be there for you. I will help you in any way possible. I will talk to you about God. If you're curious about God, I will break things down for you in the best way I possibly can. Um, but I just want to say I'm very grateful for the people in my life as well. Pastor JT, you've helped me, you know, in ways um, I can't imagine, and you've helped me grow and grow in my speaking. Um, David Carnes, man, the deep conversations we've had and the the friendship we've made since Ignite Camp and your willingness to listen to me, man, I'm just so very grateful. Peyton, dude, I did not speak to you for years, and then you just brought back in my life, and I love you, dude. Um, I love the connection we have, man. Um, Parker, thank you, bro, for getting me out of dark places, especially when my grandmother passed, man. Uh, I'm I needed it. Dylan, very grateful for the advice you have and just the hangouts we have. They've helped me time after time again. And my mom, thank you for pushing me and challenging me in my faith. You know, you made me look into things more. And, I would like to include that we did get baptized on the same day. I'm very grateful for that. And she has improved so much. So much. And, you know, she's definitely improved, and I need to get better at being more appreciative. I've kind of pushed her away, and that's on me, um, just with everything within me. But I also want to thank my sisters for supporting me through everything and being there for me as well. Um, I'm genuinely grateful for everybody, even if I did not say your name, even if I didn't, specifically speak to you. I'm very grateful for you being in my life because in some way you've probably helped me. Like Lift Church, everybody at Lift has helped me in some way. Like truthfully, I'm just so very grateful. But yeah, um, God, God is the same man, the same spirit, um, same person that you know helped me, and He can help you. Um, He doesn't just save one person, he saves so many, right? And his spirit is all around us, and it's not only just for one person, it's not only just for me, it's for you as well, for anybody to be saved, because he wants a relationship with you. He sent Jesus to die on the cross, to spill his blood, to wash us clean of our sins, all because he loves us. Like, that's insane. But anyway, I love y'all. Get into your word, and I hope y'all enjoyed the testimony. It's a super